Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in once again to the Dungeon and Dragons of the Doctors of Doom, where I am your host, Alex the Shark Sparks. And joining me this week, after another hiatus, is Mitch Mac Daddy Black, and of course our producer, who was too cool for us last week, who's out car shopping, Vinny Skittle Santucci. Say hello to everyone out there in TV Land, boys.
Hello.
What's up, candy friends? Actually, I forgot that was the reason I had to bail last week. It's just one thing after the other.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, we normally record this on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So last week when we were trying to plan, hey, when we're going to record this, because we've been off for a couple weeks, I was out of town. We want to get back on a regular schedule. And he's like, hey, I'm traveling for work. I can't do Tuesday and Wednesday. Let's do Thursday. All right, cool. We all agree to Thursday. Thursday comes along. Vinny's like, I can't make it. I'm going to be car shopping. We rescheduled the Thursday for him, and then he couldn't make it. So...
Yeah.
But we're here now. We are here.
We're just going to need to turn this into a full-time gig somehow so I can just dedicate time to it. And then, everything else can just be secondary.
Hey, we had like 30-something views on our last video, which is surprising considering we hadn't been around for a while. We don't have that many subs. So that's why you guys watched it on repeat. Somebody's out there watching it.
We had 30. We had 30 views. I didn't even watch the last one.
That's all I'm saying. It's weird.
Someone has that option where it replays video or whatever, and they fell asleep listening to us. That's
I don't know. Last time was a 2-hour episode. That'd be a lot of sleep listening. But anyway, So got quite a few things to talk about. Some of this is going to be a little dated because I thought we were going to talk about it last week. We got the NFL draft coming up starting tomorrow, so obviously we're going to talk about that. But first, some things that I want to rant about, of course, is the Dallas Mavericks. As you guys do know, the Mavs did not make the playoffs. The Lakers did. So trade worked out great, obviously. And then in the time since then, Nico Harris has done 2 pressers. The first one, he doubled down on the Luka trade, and he did not allow cameras or tape recorders, almost like he didn't want to be recorded or filmed saying that the Luka trade was a good idea, which, by the way, the press was able to negotiate to eventually get recorders in, not camera, but they got recorders in, meaning he lost the negotiations to the press at a conference that he called, which is just even worse. And so, if that wasn't bad enough, he had another press conference this week that many of you have seen, where he straight up said he, quote, didn't realize how important Luka was to Dallas. Like, how disconnected are you from your franchise and your city if you did not realize that your star player had connected with the fans? Your thoughts?
I'm at this point, I'm just convinced that it's sabotage. These pressers were historically bad. When he said I had no clue how the fans felt about Luka, you're not just out of touch with basketball. You're not just out of touch with your city. You're out of touch with basketball in general.
So the question becomes: do you think someone that is the GM of the Mavs, who I don't care how bad you are of a GM, can you really be that out of touch? So that has to be a purposely said statement, right?
That's the crazy part, right? He called these press conferences. It's not like the press demanded a press conference or something. He called them, right? And the first one where he didn't want to be on camera or whatever, you could say, oh, maybe the owners were making him do it, right? But this isn't something the owners made him do. This is the second one. And this one had cameras.
It feels like, again, it's doubling down that this has... So I'm with Vinny's opening statement is it's just at this point, it has to have came from the owners and they're just protecting him and then making him do stuff. There's just no way he's this incompetent as a GM of a professional basketball team. There's just no way you're this far out, and I think that's what it is. I think the first one felt like the owners, and then the owners. The issue for me is a lot of these owners don't have people in their lives telling them that this is wrong or you're wrong, because they've gotten very rich and successful because they're probably right a lot of the majority of the time. It's really hard to tell these billionaire owners, I would do it this way, or maybe, look at the GM. I'm not trying to bring it to the NFL, but look at the Cowboys. It's hard to get out of the owner's way sometimes when the owner is very hands-on. So I think, again, it's just the owner thinks he's doing, look at the Jets GM and the Giants GM. They think they're doing the right thing every time, and there's just not a lot of people in their life that, you know what I mean? So I think that's what's happened. I think the owners are so far out of touch, and they're making this poor guy Nico at this point just take it on the chin.
But that's part of it too, right? So one of the reports that came out that I think I might be misquoting this, but I think it was Brian Windhurst with ESPN reported that one of the owners was upset with Nico because he didn't realize Nico hadn't told him how important Luka was when he made the deal. Like, and again, this could just be the owner trying to make himself look better, but like, if the owner and the GM both don't know that Luka is important, what are you doing? This is the NBA. This is, of all the sports leagues there are, this is the one where stars matter most, where people are loyal to stars, not teams, right? How many people do you know that in the last 10 years have been a Cavs fan, a Heat fan, and a Laker fan because they're not a fan of a team, they're a fan of LeBron James? All the sports leagues, any other league, players come and go. But in the NBA, when there's only 5 starters, and of those 5 starters, there's really only 1 to 2 stars per team, it's the stars that drive the fandom, not the teams themselves. Like, sure, if you live in Atlanta, you're going to be a Hawks fan, even though they suck all the time, right? But, like, outside of that, you're not going to be a fan of them, but you might be a fan of Trae Young because he's a baller, right? Like, that's just, I don't know, it's wild to me that not only did they make this horrendous deal, but they have doubled down on it so many times and then just keep opening their mouth to put their foots back in it. Like, dude, just stop talking to the press. You're not going to win. No matter how much you try to say, well, the injuries, he shouldn't be held accountable for the injuries. Like, and to some extent, that's true. It is true that, like, the Mavericks may have done better if it not have been for injuries, but I'm sorry, that's never going to make up for what you did to Luka. That's just never going to make up for that.
That is a really fair point. That I wonder how this would be going over if Kyrie was healthy, because Kyrie was one of the dominant players, and especially last year, all the way through the NBA Finals, when they were shutting down Doncic in the finals, it was Kyrie taking over. And Doncic is very streaky. I don't care what anyone says, especially watching him. Anyways, so get off the topic. I think, okay, so I think...
But no, just tell talk though. Kyrie is able to take over because they're double covering guys like Luka. Like, you have to account for both those stars. When you take away another star, they no longer have to account for him. You don't have to do that with Anthony Davis. Not that Anthony Davis isn't good when he's healthy, but Anthony Davis and Kyrie aren't playing in the same hemisphere. Anthony Davis is under the basket, Kyrie's up at the point, right? Kyrie and Luka are both playing similar positions. So when you're taking away from one, you're having to rotate. You don't have this, like, one guy might guard Luka or Kyrie in any given night. That same guy's never going to guard Kyrie or Anthony Davis, right?
So no, definitely. So, but I agree with all that. What I'm saying is what I meant when I was getting a little off topic. To my main point is just like the way I can't remember which analyst it was, or it was which GM that was on the show that we were listening to explain. So it's a linear problem of a out of touch billionaire. So like what happens is a billionaire who doesn't really understand how important Doncic is or how the business side works or whatever says, because all their interest is being a group, and they're trying to build a airport, hotel, casino, like a whole complex around it or whatever. They get denied on a lot of that approvals. Then they're going to have to pay Doncic like some supermax deal that only like 4 players have ever gotten. I think it's equivalent of like $375 million or whatever. They didn't get approved to be able to either move the team, and they didn't get approved for the developmental deal. So what's happening is the owner says, well, if we're in limbo from being able to develop the casino around us and we're not able to move, just get rid of Doncic for a couple of years. And so it's kind of like the analyst said, I can't remember his name. He said it was kind of like what Goodell and the NFL did, or the NFL and Goodell did for a while. They knew a bunch of bad stuff was coming with the concussion protocols and all the lawsuit. We need to put up a commissioner, someone who's just going to do absolutely everything we want and take it on the chin for us. And then as Goodell had to take it more on the chin and more because they didn't realize how bad the public backlash was going to be, they just paid him more and more and more. Like, here's upping your salary, we don't care. And Goodell just kept going in front of everyone, looking like an idiot every Monday and being like, there's no problems. And all the while, Brett Favre can't find his way home without personal help because he's got some, so I'm just saying they're going through all those lawsuits, and I feel like it was the owners knew that this was their goal and that they were going to need a GM willing to do their goal. And then the problem is that the owners are so out of touch that it's just trickling down to Nico. And I know it's taken a while for us to get to this conclusion or whatever, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me or whatever. It's just uh, Nico does. There's only 30 jobs of those in the NFL, and if they're just throwing you tons and tons of money, like I'm just gonna. I think that's what's happening.
Well, here's the thing that I don't get too is situation. Like, okay, let's just remove the fact that you trade Doncic. There's got to be something to the fact that you only negotiated with one team, and that one team is the Lakers. And here, I'm a Laker fan, but I understand that we're on the same level as like the Yankees and the Cowboys and the Celtics of our sport, where it's like you're either loved or hated, right? And so there's got to be something to the fact that not only do they trade Luca, but they only trade him to one team. That one team is one of the least liked teams in sports, as well as the fact that that one team had exclusive rights to dealing for Luca. Like you're gonna sit here and tell me, oh well, defense wins championships, and they just thought that Anthony Davis was their guy. Like they didn't try to float Luca to Milwaukee for Giannis. They didn't try to just absolutely steamroll the Timberwolves for like Gobert and God knows who else on their roster and first round draft picks. Like that's what I don't get. Like if that's what your whole goal was, you could have traded Luca for any defensive player you wanted, plus more. I just don't. I don't know. The whole thing is it's less to me about just Luca getting dealt and more to the entire situation is something that I don't think we've ever seen in sports before.
Okay,
Yeah,
so there's going to be like a
it's really
30
strange. Sorry, just let me jump in because I want to comment on something you said too. I mean, you talked about that, and this has come up. A lot of people made this argument that like that it's about money and they understand want to pay the money. Well, and I know this is his job to do this, but Adam Silver has vehemently denied that allegation that they had no problems with paying the money and that they're even looking to build a new arena in Dallas. They're not looking to move. Again, I'm sure he's showing the party line. He works for the owners, so he's probably told to say that. But I just do feel obligated to say, since I'm not a reporter, but I do feel obligated to try to be as unbiased as I can be. And admittedly, with this story, it's very hard for me to be unbiased because I was a Mavericks fan. And it's hard to say whether I'm a Luka fan now because I hate the Lakers so freaking much. But yeah, no. I just if that's true, that's really disappointing that the billionaires were worried about paying billions. You know.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. I think it's also just, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's out of touch. It's just like instead of saying that it's Luka Doncic, it's like player X is going to be paying this much, and only three other people in the league get paid that, and you're a billionaire owner, and you're not going to understand why you have one of those four. It's like why can't we just win with a lot of these other players who have these contracts? If you're not like actual, that's why people love. Like I know people hate this, and like Jerry Jones and like the Mark Cuban owners who are very, very hands-on. It's like I'd love to play for an owner who actually knows and cares that much as Jerry Jones. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I don't know. Maybe we'll get more and more information that comes out. But I bet you anything it has everything to do with the casinos that got denied. I know they might got to approve the new arena, but it's like they wanted a whole like duplex like around them is what Mark Cuban released or whatever in his statement is like the two owners, the Dumont family or whatever they're called. They are casino conglomerates. Like that's how they made their billions. And so I don't know how much it's connected to that deal or not, the developmental deal or whatever. But who knows? Maybe if they're just so out of touch and incompetent to trade Luka Doncic, it'll be remembered like the Babe Ruth trade for the curse of the Bambino for many, many, many years, and that's their fault then. If you're going to be that incompetent in anything in life, you deserve to have some kind of curse for being remembered by it.
All right.
But speaking of sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just saying those first two games have been fantastic to watch between Anthony Edwards and the Lakers. Like those two games, I know the first game was a blowout and the second game got close later, but like there was something like 24 fouls amongst four starters of the Timberwolves last game, and the game wasn't even close to like the fourth. It's like many teams don't foul that much and try that much down 20, and the Timberwolves were like throwing. Dante DiVincenzo was not playing basketball last night. Dante DiVincenzo was playing wrestling last night. It was those games were actually the closest thing that I've actually felt in the NBA since probably like in the last 5-7 years, since like maybe like 2018 watching the NBA, where there was actually twos taken, like mid-range Jays. It wasn't all just dunks and threes. There was an actual physicalness to the games. So whatever's going on right now between the Lakers and the Timberwolves has been very enjoyable.
Speaking of NBA news, just try to move on. It does kind of involve the Mavericks. So after the Mavericks eliminated the Kings in the first play-in game, the Kings went ahead and decided to make a firing of their own. We talked about how fickle it is in the NBA. What have you done for me lately, league? I mean, it's wild how often people get fired, but they fired their GM after they lost to the Mavs. And for context, they had a 16-year playoff drought before he got them back, organized a team to get them back to the playoffs 2 years ago, and then last year, the playing game didn't make it. So it's like, I don't know, considering you were mediocre, well, worse than mediocre, you didn't even make the playoffs in the every team gets a trophy league for 16 years, and you finally did, and here we are 2 years removed from that, and he's out the door. Just kind of crazy to me that how fast things turn over, especially, again, back to Nico. How does this guy keep his job and all these other people that perform well do keep theirs, or don't keep theirs? One other fun fact about Nico is Dallas Stars are in the playoffs. Hockey playoffs going on right now. On the ice, on the glass, in the front row at the hockey game, for the Dallas Stars game, there were people wearing Fire Nico shirts. So this is a hockey game in the playoffs, and instead of wearing a team shirt or a shirt about the city or a shirt about one of the players, they wore Fire Nico shirts to the Dallas Stars hockey game. I thought that was fun. Like that's how mad the people of Dallas are. Even the people who have glass seats to see playoff hockey, they're like, nah, F Nico, that's the message I want to send.
They were showing on Reddit or whatever, like when they were doing the playing game and then a couple games before the end of the season, it was like, and they were like teetering or whatever. Every time, that they during commercial breaks or TV timeouts, they would like do fun fan stuff like a kiss cam or like show like someone dancing or whatever. They had to stop doing that because everyone would just yell "Fire Nico" on the jumbotron. They would just mouth it. It's pretty bad.
All right, so
yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. All right, that was my NBA news. And again, the only hockey news I have is playoff hockey's going on. I ranted about this last time. If you've never watched playoff hockey, you absolutely should. I have one other thing to talk about before we move on to the NFL, unless you guys have any other basketball or hockey stuff you want to discuss.
I just want to say
go ahead, Mitch.
No, I just want to say it's going to get worse if the Lakers move on past the Timberwolves series 1-1, we're now split at home, so that's not a good sign. But we get past the Timberwolves, and then next round is against the Golden State Warriors, and we somehow beat the Golden State Warriors with that roster and that team and that history. Doncic has to be the star if we have any chance at getting past the Warriors. So let's pretend we get past the Warriors. Like, it's only going to get worse for Nico as the next month goes on, depending on how the Lakers do. Go on, Vinny.
I would argue that, yeah, I mean, the Lakers as a 3 seed, it's already gone worse than you thought,
True.
Just because of how successful they are. But no, the one thing that I was going to say is, I kind of the other day, and this just goes to show just how crazy life's been. I was like, oh my God, the NBA playoffs are starting. I watched a little bit of the play-in games, which were pretty terrible, actually.
Yeah, they weren't good. Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't necessarily good games. But so then I turn it on. It's like the first playoff game that I watch is the Thunder and Grizzlies. I literally turn on the TV, and it's like in the third quarter of the Thunder versus Grizzlies game 1, and the score was 94-47. They had doubled their points like halfway through the third quarter, 94-47, to the point it was so bad that I called Dakota and my wife into the room to be like, babe, look at this NBA basketball score. Like, I've never in my life seen anything like, and I know teams have lost by 50, but to be down 94-40 or 47-94, like halfway through the third quarter is just absolutely egregious. Like, that is just was a wild thing to see. That was the only thing I had to say about the playoffs. That, and I don't know how Luka wins a single ISO. Him and Jokic being like two of the best players in basketball has got to be just like so frustrating for basketball fans who just like love what people like Steph Curry can do and Anthony Edwards. Because like, dude, they move at like half speed and still drop 35 every night.
I wonder how. Did you watch the game two, Lakers, Timberwolves?
Yeah, dude, I said like Gobert nonstop.
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say
then, getting past Gobert was still
40
tough.
times in one game is insane. It's actually crazy. Like, and Gobert's like a defensive player of the year multiple times. So it's not like
Yeah.
he's a joke. It's not like, oh, it's a bad matchup or whatever. It's like, no, he matches up well against 99% of the NBA. And the Jokic, not Jokic, sorry. Well, Jokic kind of plays the same game, but Jokic and Doncic, they're just kind of like very, very frustrating because they're so slow and you don't understand how they're beating you. And he takes so many, he drives through the paint and doesn't do a layup and just step backs for a second, does like a mid range. He's the king of that. And all right, well, I know end of basketball. The last thing I'll say is I really enjoy Anthony Edwards though. That guy is the closest thing. I know people are always looking for like the next Michael, the next Kobe or whatever, but I haven't really seen anyone really have the same personality. I think Anthony Edwards is the closest thing that Kobe reincarnated I've seen in my life in any sport. That guy is
Yeah.
phenomenally entertaining. He's extremely competitive. The way he yelled at some of the fans in the bench last night is just, I'm a big fan of him. So,
Yeah, he's fun to watch. That dunk on Jackson Hayes last night when he like did like an up and under, I was like, how did he just do that? And yeah, his personality is very similar. You know, I think we missed that in sports. There's just not a whole bunch of those guys out there anymore with that killer mentality, and it's so tough
it's
to
not
see that
even
we've
like
gotten away from that.
it's not even like condescendingly toxic. That's a terrible way to describe it. Like it's like just like how do you describe it? It's just like he's very endearing and authentic. It's weird. It's just he's not unapologetic. He just doesn't
Yeah,
care. Yeah.
yeah.
He's becoming one of my favorite. He's definitely becoming one of my favorite players in all sports, like including soccer too, which is crazy. He's up there.
All right, boys and girls. One last thing I want to talk about. It is football related, but it's not NFL draft related. So obviously the tush push gets a lot of scrutiny, especially in the off season. Lining up, putting down a short yardage situation, and just pushing them across the line of scrimmage there. Well, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Mike Leach,
Yeah, I knew where this is going.
Mike Leach, college coach, known for his offensive mindedness, he had another interesting idea for short yardage situations. Not the tush push, but I guess the midge pitch. I don't know how to call that one with some PC language. But basically, what his plan was to line up a little person in the backfield, and then throw them over the line of scrimmage in short line of scrimmage situations to get the first down. Because you can toss. Look, these are college athletes. These big buff 250-pound guys. They could probably toss a little 60-pound dude a few yards, and that's all you really need in those short yardage situations. He was talked down from actually doing that, but other than the optics of it would look so bad and not politically correct, why wouldn't it work? Guys, why wouldn't the midge pitch work?
I hate whoever talked him out of that. I just think witnessing that a single time would have been worth watching a Mike Leach game. I would probably watch every single game just for the chance that would happen if I knew that was in the playbook. And it's not like he coached teams that you wanted to watch, like Washington State. So was he at Texas Tech as well?
Yeah, Texas Tech.
When I read that,
person?
Mike Leach is just all-time goals. He just says he has some of the all-time quotes, all-time ideas. This coming out now, after he's passed away, I think solidifies Mike Leach as just an all-time coach for the boys. This dude did it for the boys.
Wait, are we talking about a little person?
Yes,
Did
he
you not
wanted
listen
to
to the
throw a
entire
little
thing?
person over the line of scrimmage.
Oh no!
Did you not listen to what I was talking about?
I did, but I think I missed that part. I was googling because I didn't hear about it. I was like, "Wait, what pitch? Wait, what's going? Wait, that's
The midge
greatest
pitch.
thing ever.
The midge pitch.
That's terrible.
It is
Oh,
terrible.
no.
There's no PC way to say that.
The little people throw.
But yeah, the
That's
plan was to take
it.
for those who a little person, someone who is vertically challenged, even though they're still they're still of age. They're
When was
very
this?
tiny,
How did I
and you
miss
chuck them
this?
over the line of scrimmage for a few yards. That was the plan.
Wait, I'm Googling it right now because I don't understand when I missed something this gold.
I
How
don't know
did
how
I
you missed it.
know? When did Michael Leach say? Speaking of the tush push, it's definitely what's his name? Matt LaFleur accidentally let it leak on the Dan Patrick show in one of the questions or whatever. That basically the NFL called LaFleur and asked them to be the team to nominate the tush push for the players' own meeting, and then it got tabled or whatever. It didn't get voted on. It got tabled for a month from now or whatever. So that probably means the NFL, Goodell and the owners obviously called them all up and said, which way would you vote, buddy? Jerry calling everyone up and Kraft calling everyone, which way are you going to vote? And they probably figured out that they didn't have enough votes. And so at the players meeting, they tabled it or whatever. It's going to be voted on in a month, but it's pretty much in the process of being, taken out to the back of the barn or whatever, because it got leaked that the NFL called the Packers and asked them to be the ones to nominate it, and that if they were the ones who nominated, they would be the ones who orchestrated to make sure it got passed. Because how embarrassing would it be if you nominate that and it doesn't get passed, and then the Eagles play the Packers or something like that? I would just tush push every single play down the field. So, yeah. So it's like, yeah, Goodell, you better have the numbers to vote on this. Otherwise, this is going to be really embarrassing. And apparently, Goodell didn't have the numbers yet. So, but it'll be in the process. I guarantee when the NFL wants something, it will get it. They're releasing all these numbers that it's like terrible for the game. It's a rugby play, blah blah blah. They actually have a more successful rate on regular QB sneaks, blah blah blah, and all these things. So, anyways, I'm just trying to let you know. I bet you anything before next season, I will. It's gonna that play is gone. But definitely, whatever Mike Leach is thinking of is definitely not gonna happen. I promise you that.
But
Okay.
is it illegal though? Vin, you play football. Is that illegal?
Throwing
Chuck a
away.
guy over the line of scrimmage?
I mean, I just depend. I mean, yes, it would be when you like apply like they had like the Bush push, right? When you apply those rules, but
Well, yeah,
since
but
those
the
rules
push
don't
push and the
exist.
tush push, they're the same thing.
But when you apply those rules, like throwing somebody to like advance, same thing. Like you can't propel yourself on defense, right? Like you can't push off of another player, throw someone on the defensive side. So
Uh,
I'm sure it would have been brought up, but it was within the rules when he thought about it. I just can't help but picture like Mike Leach throwing a little person over the line of scrimmage, and then like I just envision like Tro Palomalu on the other side, just like
just lighting him up.
absolutely wrecking this dude midair. Every single time they saw him lined up in the backfield, just like safeties and linebackers just running and jumping over the line of scrimmage and just murdering this poor person.
The optics would be hilarious too, because the first time he does it, you'd be like, why is that guy on the field, right? Like, this is like, because you wouldn't know,
Pretty
so
sure
you'd be
you're
like, this is
obviously
Make-A-Wish
playing
thing or
it,
something. Like, is he like a senior? They want to give him a senior, let him
You're not
get his
gonna let him-
Letterman jacket or something. But then when he actually gets the ball and gets chucked over the line of scrimmage, from then on, every time they run that guy out there, you like, how do you defend that? Like, as a defensive player, all right, I ain't ready to clap this dude. It's a third my size.
Okay.
All of, a
Unless
sudden, all of a sudden, they're running gadget plays like a wide receiver screen with an offensive lineman out there. And the offensive lineman's just picking this dude up as soon as he catches it and just, javelin throwing him over the first down line. I just can't believe that we never got to see that. It is just so funny to me.
next year's draft, it's like four small people drafted in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, they got to hold on to the football, right? It's got to be people that got to be people with good hands. One. Now that we're moving into the NFL draft, one thing I want to talk about before we talk about the NFL draft itself is, you guys know I haven't been that big on Shedeur Sanders. You want to hear a wild statistic?
Sure.
Yes.
The Colorado Buffaloes have retired numbers 2 and 12. Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter have had their jersey numbers retired during the spring game a few days ago. No one else can ever wear those because of that whole, great career they had at Colorado. I want to point out another guy who played for Colorado, Cordell Stewart, does not have his number retired. He won 2 bowl games and finished in the top 10 twice, but he wasn't the coach's son. Just saying.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild? Like, talk about a shot in the face. So those who don't know who Cordell Stewart was, he went pro. He was decent in pro, but like many pro players, they were much more successful in college. He had Colorado finish as a top 10 school in the country twice, which is just unheard of for Colorado. Won 2 bowl games, but he wasn't coach. He wasn't, not even just the coach. He wasn't Deion's son. So his number's not retired, but the other 2 guys, they combined had a losing record, right? At Colorado, I think they had a winning record combined for their 2 years there. Either way, it wasn't great. They definitely didn't win any bowl games or finish highly in the ratings. Both their numbers are retired. So just kind of ridiculous, but yeah.
That is, I mean, listen, here's the thing. I kind of understand Travis Hunter. Like, you go to the school, you win a Heisman, you're like a dual athlete. But, he's only there for a couple years.
Yeah, Hunter's more understandable.
But Shadur makes no sense. Yeah, that's just nepotism at its finest.
Yeah, Hunter, I understand. Dude won a Heisman for your school. You want to retire that jersey? Totally understandable. But Shadur,
quick question. Come on, man. Got me thinking. I don't know why it got me thinking this. Sorry, we could just do a quick answer so I don't derail the conversation back off the NFL draft. But let's say the Lakers and LeBron does not win a title and he plays another year and a half. Maybe he plays like half of the year next year, the second half. Do the Lakers retire his number?
Who?
LeBron.
Oh, LeBron?
I think he has to win another title.
So if he wins this year or next year, he gets his number retired. If he doesn't in the next 2 years, because I'm sure he's only got 2 years left.
I don't think so, because I imagine he's going to have that happen with either the Cavs or the Heat, and the Lakers don't want to be second or third fiddle. They're not about that.
Oh, he's definitely getting retired in Cleveland and Miami. He's going to have a statue in both those places.
That's what I'm saying. You don't want to be the third fiddle team like to that. The Lakers. If you're the Minnesota Timberwolves and you got nothing else to cheer about, sure, you might want to do that, right? But when you're a prestigious organization with a lot of history, a lot of greats, a lot of championships like the Lakers, you're not going to want to be looked at as, oh, well, this was the 3rd best place that LeBron played. You know what I mean?
In the rafters, it's going to be like Magic, Kareem, Worthy, Kobe, and then is there going to be LeBron up there?
That's what I'm saying. And when you say just the names, like, oh, sure, he deserves it when you say the names, but it's not what they did as careers, it's what they did for that organization. All those other guys played almost their entire career, if not their entire career, with that organization.
Yeah, that's really tough because, obviously, you think of the names, and LeBron deserves to be up there, if not exceeds most of those people.
Would the Lakers pass the?
But he outside of a bubble championship, what did he ever do for the Lakers? Like, they haven't necessarily been good. Like, they won that championship with AD, and outside of that, they haven't even been a contender. Like, they making a playoff. Like, honestly, the only reason I'm invested in this year is because now we have Luka and we're a 3 seed. When it was just LeBron and it was LeBron and AD, like, we were a play-in team. We were an 8 seed. We were a 7 seed. We were a 6 seed. Like, we never actually had a chance. I mean, granted, there was the year I think we made it to the conference finals, which was just wild.
That's the year after we won, but yeah.
And we had no reason to really be there. We just got hot in the playoffs.
Well, AD was still healthy and under 31. Yeah, no, for sure. In the last 2-3 years, though, we've been completely irrelevant.
But yeah, most of LeBron's time with the Lakers.
You're saying that swapping Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic benefited the Lakers in a great way? That's wild.
They have the best dude.
Because Luka doesn't play defense and he's out of shape, and as we know, defense wins championships. So that can't be right. Let me just check the standings. Maybe I missed something. So let me just go here to the overall standings, because I'm sure that I'm wrong there. Lakers, 3rd place with 50 wins. Dallas, 10th place with 39. Okay.
We haven't gotten above 50 wins since that 2020 season as well.
Let's see the defense here. Points per game, 112. Mavericks, 115. So Lakers have better defense. Cool. Cool.
He did. I will say he did have a lot of personal accomplishments while on the Lakers.
Agreed.
So
He passed
it's
he
it's
became the
tough. Like
all-time
he's
scorer.
broken a lot of records while on the
Right.
Lakers. I just don't necessarily think he's made the Lakers better.
Right,
He
but
became
if
the all-time lead
but
winners.
if Mike Evans, so Mike Evans broke
minutes.
the record this year for the 10 consecutive, not like tied for 10 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, right? If this past season, instead of playing for the Bucks, he had played for the Jets and did that, would he go down as a Jets legend because he, oh my God, a streak of 10 years of 1,000 yards? He did 9 of those seasons with a different organization, right?
Yeah, but
like, yeah,
that's
LeBron
not-
scored
I
a
guess
ton
that's
of
not
points, but most of those seasons weren't with the Lakers.
Yeah, he did bring us a title though.
I mean,
Sorry,
the
I didn't mean
bubble
to
year.
derail the conversation this long because I honestly was thinking in my head, I was like, dang, are the Lakers going to retire LeBron's number? And I honestly don't have an answer. Because I'm afraid the Lakers are, as an organization and entertainment business and franchise, they're not going to pass up the opportunity to put LeBron James's name in the rafters and associate it with the Lakers for how rest of time or whatever.
I
So
mean,
it's
that's
just
a
kind
good
of
point.
like,
I mean that's a good point. But I think like Vinny said, I think the Lakers have had so many greats who were so successful. I think a single championship
enough.
from a rented player during the COVID shortened season bubble year isn't enough to warrant being in the Raptor. But hey, what do I know?
Who knows?
I don't know enough
Yeah.
to be a team. So
well, table that. But sorry, go on back to that NFL draft. We are a fantasy podcast.
I mean, we're a sports podcast at this point, but I mean,
We're a sports
we are
podcast.
obligated to talk fantasy football a little bit. And in order to talk fantasy football, we have to know who's on what team. And in order to know who's on what team, well, tomorrow's the NBA draft, or NBA draft, NFL draft, where they're going to go and pick some players, decide who's going to be on their team. Now, as fantasy people, the things that are most relevant to us, obviously, are offensive skill position players that actually have the ball in their hand. But there are some other things that matter. I mean, if you pick up an O lineman, it benefits the other skill players on that team. If you pick up something on defense, it might mean you get the ball more often because your team gets off the field faster. So, yeah, we're going to go through here and we're going to talk some NFL draft. And I was thinking we might try to do a little bit of a mock draft. Now, I know everyone does this. We're only going to do, like the first, I guess 9 picks or so because Vinny wanted to rotate.
Oh, we don't have to rotate. We don't have to rotate. It's an idea, but let's just do the top 10. And
Well,
we
I
can-
had an idea because what we could just do is the Wheel of Destiny. Although I don't.
Oh, I love the Wheel of Destiny, and Chris isn't here to get the number 1 pick.
Of course
So
not. I don't remember what the website
Really,
is.
we could just if you want to take it, just take it. You know what I mean? Just if you want to talk about this pick, talk about it. Because I don't know if I'm like, what if I get a pick that I don't really know, or I don't know. All right, never mind.
Then you can trade the
just don't
GM. You can trade
I
that
can
pick.
trade. I'm gonna trade down on all my picks this year.
All right, so we're gonna. So first pick in the NFL draft. I guess I need to know who's on the clock. It's the Titans, right? Yeah. So first pick in the NFL draft. Tennessee Titans are on the clock. I'm gonna spin the wheel. Whoever this lands on, you are the GM, and you tell us what you would do in that situation. So here we go. Let's spin the wheel of destiny. and see
Pretty
who it
obvious
is.
one. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me.
All right, looks like Vinny, you are on the clock. You are the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, and you have the first pick in the NFL draft. Where are you going?
I mean, I think the whole world knows exactly what's happening on this pick. We've made it pretty obvious as a Titans franchise that our pick is Cam Ward. Now, personally, if I, it's one of those things, the Patriots said something that was probably the smartest thing I ever heard when they drafted Drake May, and they're like, we're going to draft Drake May because we don't anticipate being here ever again, and we want a quarterback. The Titans have so many holes. I honestly think that if they could get a return like the Bears did for the number 1, like that's probably the best move for them. But Cam Ward's the pick. I don't think they're trading it. I don't even think they're discussing trading it. I just don't think Cam Ward is necessarily a generational QB. It's kind of like the crop from a few years back where it's like, when Kenny Pickett went like in the 27th or something like that to the Steelers. Like there just wasn't a good quarterback. I think Cam Ward is easily the best quarterback. I don't think if he's like necessarily worthy of a number 1 pick, but he's much better than Will Levis. I do think he has potential to be good. So Cam Ward is the number 1 overall pick tomorrow night.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. And I will say to your point about like trading down, the reason I don't really think trading down is an option is it's not just quarterback. This draft class in general is just considered to be a pretty weak draft class at the top at least. Like I'm not saying like there's 7 rounds, there's a ton of college players. I'm not trying to knock them all, but most of the experts, and I'm not claiming to be one, but I do watch ESPN and read articles and whatnot, which is how I get this great information, like the Mike Leach mid pitch. I try to stay tuned into what's going on, and everyone's talking about just how weak this draft class is, especially when you compare it to last year's, which was amazing. So this draft class is pretty weak, at least as far as top end talent. So it's hard to think that you're going to get enough value trading down that you would in other drafts.
I think Vinny's hit it right on the head. It's not necessarily which player is going to be taken first overall. It's what team. So the only thing that's more, it's not interesting of like, oh, who it could be Cameron Ward, could be Travis Hunter. No, it's Cameron Ward. It's just which team is taking Cameron Ward. If you look at like DraftKings and you look at like number 2 pick, Travis Hunter's like minus 1,000. Number 3 pick, Abdul Carter's like minus 750. Those are pretty clear good odds for those picks. Cameron Ward is minus 2,500. Sorry, minus 25,000.
Yeah.
25,000.
For those who don't know how betting odds work, you would have to bet $25,000 that he's going to get picked to win 100.
Exactly. So it's not necessarily about him. He's going to be the first pick. It's whether or not the Titans, because they have so many holes, as exactly Vinny said, trade out of it. And to be honest, like, why not? If you not sold on Cameron Ward, you spent the 32, 33 overall pick last year on Will Levis. And I don't, you know what I mean? It's really tough. That would be a tough position. And for like frame of reference, 2021, Trevor Lawrence at this pick. 2022, Travon Walker from Georgia, a defensive end at this pick. 2023, Bryce Young. And 2024, Caleb Williams. Tell me there, 3 out of the 4 of them are QBs. Trevor Lawrence is a good QB, I'll give you that. But like,
I mean,
Bryce Young and Caleb.
Let's be real.
Let's be real. So Caleb Williams and Bryce Young are your other 2 picks. I know you can argue there are better QBs that got below them. I'm just going off of what the number 1 pick in the NFL draft has been. If you're not 100% sold on Cam Ward, I really like you have the opportunity to get some real picks by trading down. But anyways, what do I know?
And I will say this: I think Cam Ward is what we call the Office 7 or the Office 8, right? Like you work in an office environment, and look, we're women do this too, but I'm going to speak from a guy's perspective because I'm a dude, right? You're a dude. You work in an office. You check out the people that work there, and quite frankly, most of us aren't fortunate enough to work in an office surrounded by supermodels, right? So when you're checking them out, you're like, okay, they're whatever. But then every day goes by, and these are the people you're around, and then by comparison, like, hey, this girl's not half bad. She's actually kind of pretty. Well, she wouldn't be kind of pretty if you ran into her at a bar or a club or hanging out wherever you go out. But in the office, that chick's not bad. Well, that's what Cam Ward is. Cam Ward's not a guy that when you look at the general landscape of like what NFL draft prospects have been like in the first round over the years and what the NFL quarterback looks like and what last year's draft class looked like, no, that's not great. But when you're looking around at this draft class, you're like, hey, that dude's not bad. Maybe I do like this dude. And that's what I think is going to happen to the Titans when they take him. And hopefully for their sake he works out because they've just been a blunder.
Yeah, I just wanted to say while we're on the topic of Cam Ward, all going into the year, how many signs did you see that were like, especially as a Raider fan, like tank for Shador or lose for Shador, right? And then what that reminds me of is did you guys ever see the video of like Cam Ward and Shador Sanders like throwing with each other? They were like training with each other before.
Yeah, that was entertaining.
And when Cam Ward throws the ball, it just had it flew off his hand in comparison to Shador Sanders. And it was like the first time that I realized like those two aren't even in the same caliber of quarterback. It was almost like watching those videos of Marvin Harrison Jr. running routes with Quentin Johnston from the Chargers, and like you're just like, wow, Marvin Harrison Jr. is light years better than this Johnston dude. But yeah, I mean, it's just so funny just to think like 6 months ago people were tanking for Shador, and now it's like Cam Ward's number 1 and Shador might not even go in the first round.
Well, because 6 months ago the the Colorado Buffaloes were 4-0 and had been scoring 45 points a game, and then they started playing other teams that had real defenses and didn't look so good.
As someone who watches college football and loves watching pro football, I thought Kyle Bowler was going to be great. So ever since those days, I don't really know what makes it good. The thing that gets me though is like a lot of times you always hear like, oh, he has all the talent in the world, but does he have the mental to be a superstar in the NFL? Like, oh, and a lot of you hear all these GMs and QB coaches are like, oh, give me someone I could work on the talent. I need someone who has the mental and everything. It's like, what has Shadur Sanders really done all that wrong? Like, if he was Shadur Smith, he'd probably be well liked by all the GMs. Like, oh, look at this guy. He works hard. He's confident. He doesn't get in trouble. He's got all the cameras on him at all times, and he still doesn't step out of line. He's not drunk driving like Jalen Carter and murdering people, and dropping draft spots. So he's not taking bong rips out of gas masks. Like, I don't really understand it. I get it because he's a Sanders kid. And so it comes with all the attention.
I will jump in there, Mitch. I totally fair point that you're making. I want to make it clear. My issue with Sanders is not his personality, and
Sure.
I will say that admittedly, you're going to get some baggage that comes with him having a father like that. The same with the Ball family in the NBA, right? LaMelo and all those
The
guys.
Mannings have baggage?
Do what now?
Like Eli comes in and his father's like
absolutely.
basically
That's
F
an
the
example.
Chargers.
The-
Screw the Chargers.
yeah.
My son's not playing for this organization, and he
Right.
goes to the Giants.
Yeah, so there's baggage.
know it was like- it was like, good job,
The
Dad.
the difference is that, and again, I'm not an expert, but the experts aren't giving him a first round draft grade, which means
For sure.
he wouldn't go in the first round if this were a deeper QB class, right? Also, just
For
the
sure.
eyeball test from what I saw on the field, like I do watch a lot of college football because especially living here in the South, college is more important than pro. So even if I like pro better, everywhere I go on a Saturday, they're watching college ball, so by default I'm seeing it. And when you watch that guy play on Saturday, it wasn't someone that I'm like, that's the guy who's going to lead my NFL franchise to a championship. Whereas when you watch this other guy, like Vinny and I have talked about this privately, I am much higher on Jackson Dart than I am
Oh, me too.
on Shadur Sanders, whereas no one is talking about Dart going above Sanders in the draft, right? So,
For
and I'm not
sure.
saying that can't happen. It can, but I'm saying like no one is talking about that happening. Whereas me personally, from the eyeball test, and again, not an expert, that's what I would rather have that. But anyway, let's move on. That was pick one. Now we're going to go to pick two. Pick two is the Cleveland Browns. They need everything because they just suck. So let's spin the wheel of destiny and see who is going to be doing the pick for the Cleveland Browns organization. And it's me. All right. So as I said, the Cleveland Browns, we need everything because we kind of suck. Yeah, so we did just shore up our defense by signing Myles Garrett, who's I'm totally gonna leave, but then didn't. So their biggest need is also QB, in my opinion, but they're not gonna go with Shadur Sanders as we just talked about. I think one of their needs, based on their culture, is a solid workhorse running back. That has been their bread and butter.
Whoa.
And I know that this is a reach because this is not where people think he's going to go. But I think if I were the Browns position, I would take Alshon Jeudy because that guy's a stud at running back. And I just feel like, look, the Browns, what do the Browns do? They run the ball and they play defense. They're in the cold. That's what cold weather teams do that are successful, right? The Steelers, when they've been successful, even when they had Big Ben, there were games where Big Ben threw the ball 15 times for 200 yards, right, or 150 yards, and they still win because they played good defense in Steel Curtain, and they ran the ball with the Bus or Fast Willie or whoever happened to be back there that day in the backfield. So Chubb has knees and legs falling off his body. We saw this year that Ford was not the guy. They let Kareem Hunt go. So, like, who you got, right, in the backfield? There's nobody that's, like, jumping out at you like, oh, that's our guy. Well, you know who could be your guy? Ashton Jeudy. That could be your guy. He's going to be an absolute workhorse. Put him back there, feed him the rock 30 times a game. I think that's the pick if you're the Browns organization. Again, that is not what people are predicting. That is just what me, Alex, would do if I were the GM of the 3-14 Cleveland Browns. It also, you know what else it does for my organization? It sells jerseys. Because if I go out there and I pick a lineman, ain't nobody gonna buy that jersey. No shade against linemen. Linemen are super important. They're great. There's some really cool ones out
Jerry
there,
Jones.
but that's not what puts butts in seats. It's not what sells jersey. And if you're the Browns and you're probably looking to improve this year, so instead of being 3-14, you can be 5 or 6-10. You're looking to put butts in seats and make your money that way, and selling merch, and the way you do that is by drafting the top running back in the class, and that's Genty.
Wow, that's definitely not where I thought you were gonna go. Um,
Where do you
that's
think it's gonna go?
I get it. I get it. I don't know. It wasn't a running back at number 2 overall. Which actually did make me giggle a little bit
Well, also keep in
because
mind I was the Browns, right? So I'm not known for making good decisions.
Oh,
what
no.
when is the last time in recent memory that a running back has gone that high in a draft?
Saquon Barkley, 2018.
I still think he was what, like 5 or 6?
I thought he was two. Let me see here. Let me see. I know my Saquon.
Oh, he was 2. He was 2.
Yeah, second
Okay,
overall.
okay. How about before that? Before
Uh,
Saquon.
mm, I forget. It's got to be like Adrian Pearson, 12. I don't know.
The
Yeah.
Browns in 2012 drafted who? 3 overall.
Wait, the
Trent
Browns,
Richardson,
Trent Richardson. Oh, and Adrian Pearson was
And
seventh.
remind me
So
again, what position does Trent Richardson play?
running back, baby.
Running back.
Trent,
So,
sorry, Adrian
So
Pearson
there you
was
go.
and
seven.
honestly, like one of the biggest busts of all time, Trent Richardson, number 3 overall, to the Browns. But no, I actually agree. I think that's I don't know. I'm one of those that doesn't necessarily draft like value running back so much when it comes to NFL drafts, only because when you're drafting that high, you have so many needs, and in a I don't think that a running back takes you from bad to competitive. I think it takes you from, you know, good to great when you have the
Right.
pieces in place. Like just look at the Falcons and Bijan Robinson. Like Bijan Robinson is a freak running back athlete, and they just haven't been necessarily good because the team's not good. But then on the flip side,
I think my
You
argument.
get a guy like Jameer Gibbs who can turn a franchise on its head because Detroit's already so good around him. Um, but no, I think it's a good pick. I'm just kind of
Yeah, so I think to your point though,
spitballing.
I think my argument though, Vinny, is when you look at the Browns and what they did not last year but 2 years ago with Flacco, right? When you look at what they were able to do, the success they were able to have, they were able to make the playoffs even. They have the pieces in general, but they obviously the thing they need the most is a quarterback. But as we've discussed, the quarterback option's not there. Like you're not taking a quarterback this high, and if you did, they're not going to be ready this year. Any quarterback you draft in this draft, I think is going to be a project, right? So the answer at the quarterback position is not here. But if you can find some veteran QB out there who just doesn't turn the ball over and can make the occasional good throw, which there are guys out there. My boy Kirk Thuggins is out there. Um, A-Rod is out there. Not that I'm a huge A-Rod fan, but still, you sign one of those veterans to do that, and you bring in the workhorse running backs to take the pressure off them, and you play the good defense. It's not the worst team. Like as far as teams drafting in the first 10 picks, I would argue that like the core of the Browns is probably more of a top 20 team or a bottom 20, not a bottom 10. You know what I'm saying? Like a team that could be
Yeah.
picking
Oh,
the first, that pick 20 lower than the Broncos are, as opposed to pick 2 is the point I'm trying to make here.
this is this is for me personally on the Browns. So like 3 out of the last 4 years, the first two picks have been QBs. So 2021, number two is Zach Wilson. 2022, Aiden Hutchinson. So those were two DNs in 2022. But 3 out of the last 4 years have been QBs. 2 years ago, Stroud, and last year was Jaden Daniels. So um, it's likely going to be. What's interesting to me is this is okay. So if there wasn't Travis Hunter in the draft, I would be willing to bet on DraftKings that they go the LSU offensive lineman Will Campbell, because the problem. First of all, if this was me being asked the question, I would take Travis Hunter, because the Madden GM in me, and to be able to have a defensive and offensive player who is highly rated, and I get to use them kind of where I want in a video game, like that would be too much fun. So, but beyond Travis Hunter, let's pretend he didn't exist. I would be willing. It's got to be Will Campbell, the online from LSU, because the Browns. Joel Bitonio is the number 3 left guard. Guess what? They've had him like 4 games in the last 2 years. Wyatt Teller is like the number 1 rated right guard in the league, and they've only had him for like 5 games in the last 2 years. Then Pochich, Conklin, and Willis all been hurt, and they've been rotating the new guys in, like Zinter and those other guys. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, like Zinter and Lucas and all those guys. So the issue is they haven't had their great linemen in the last 2 years. They've all been like injured for like season-ending injuries. 2 years ago, Teller and Bitonio went down week 1. So I'm willing. If it would suck, it would be hard for me not to pass on Travis Hunter, but I would put Will Campbell in that number 2 Brown spot, and that's honestly what I truly believe. And if I like was
keep in mind, I'm not saying that this is what the Brown that I think. This isn't what I think the Browns will do. This is what.
Oh, gotcha.
This is what I would do.
Oh, then I would do.
Also,
Travis
the whole
Hunter.
point of this is like, look, if our mock draft just goes like, if I just follow what ESPN's mock draft is on their website, then this isn't fun content. So,
sure.
I also there's also a bit of a showman in me. I will admit. But yeah, I mean, running back. Look, running back is one of their needs. It's not like I just made up a need, right? Like that was a need, and I think that's legitimate. I think you can legitimately make a claim that with a solid defense, which they have, and a solid running game, they can be competitive as long as their quarterback doesn't completely suck out loud. Now, their quarterback does completely suck out loud, which is a problem, but there's no way to address that here at this pick. All right, let's move on, because if not, we're going to be mock drafting for the next 45 years. So going on to pick number 3. Do we want to make Mitch do it, or do we want to keep doing the Wheel of Destiny?
I feel like we give it to Mitch. We can do the Wheel of Destiny for like the whoever goes next, but I think every 3 we should.
So Mitch, we're going to be on the clock here. You were the New York Giants general manager. Who are you taking?
The New York Giants general manager is not something I want to be.
That's not true. You would take that
that's
in
not
a heartbeat.
I would. Oh yeah, I'd probably pay them to have that job. The thing is, this comes down to, I guess. Yeah, this is tough. I don't know. Basically, I'll just say 2021, the 3rd overall pick was Trey Lance. 2022, it was a cornerback, Derek Stingley from LSU. 2 years ago, it's, in my opinion, probably the top defensive player in the league, Will Anderson Jr. from Bama. That guy is a beast, and he was the 3rd pick behind Young and Stroud. And then last year it was Drake May. So it's been, again, 2 QBs and then 2 defensive players that are just world beaters. So based off of that, I just don't understand how you don't go Abdul Carter. If your QB's not here, why would you not go get someone like that? Otherwise, I have no idea what they're thinking. Last year, they did a wide receiver at 7th overall in Neighbors. So, that's good pick for them. Let's see if they can keep it going. I guess I would just go Abdul Carter here, because I don't really know a lot of the extra players, to be honest with you. And
yeah. Go ahead.
Go. What's up? That's it.
No, I just am fascinated by the fact that Travis Hunter is technically still on the board at the 4th pick.
No, I put him at 2, so whatever.
No,
I mean, you put him at 2, but he didn't go 2. You had an option to draft.
He was on the board to draft just now. He was on the board.
You had an option to draft him at 3, and you took Abdul Carter. So
then I'll stay with Abdul Carter. But I would have taken Travis Hunter 1 in this draft. So,
have you ever done a mock draft, Mitchell? Do you know how they work?
I wasn't exactly sure we were actually drafting, but sure. Okay, I'm going to go Travis Hunter 3rd then.
Okay, well then you got to defend your argument, because you just argued for a different player.
Because Travis Hunter
gives me a hard time. This guy gives me a hard time for not taking Travis Hunter at number 2, and then doesn't take him at number 3. Like that's not a big deal.
On my mind, I take him 1 because I don't need a quarterback.
But that's not how mock drafts work. You weren't the GM of the Titans or the Browns. You were the GM of the Giants.
Oh, I'm the GM of the Giants, and I'm going Travis Hunter and laugh at you idiots for giving me a Hall of Famer.
Mitch as a GM is just salivating on the block like, oh, damn, I had him at 1. I draft 3rd, so I'll never get him. I'll never get even if he's there at my pick, I had him big board as number 1, so
I would be running up to the podium. I'd be running up to the podium, putting the Heisman winner.
The Giants GM going to the draft. We think this guy's the best player. This is who we're targeting. All right, we're gonna take somebody else anyway.
Yeah, we're going outdoor corner. Wait, they weren't on the board? No,
Well,
yeah.
like,
So then maybe I am
have
the
you guys,
biggest
have you
gambler.
guys, a little off topic, but talking about the draft, have you guys seen that movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's
Okay,
not bad.
love the
I actually
movie.
just watched it the other day because it was on TV, and
Okay.
some of the trades in that movie are atrocious.
Oh yeah, no, it is horrific. So for context, I love the movie. In the movie,
Yeah.
he has the seventh pick in the draft, and he's really high on this linebacker, but he needs to make a splash to keep his job. The owner wants to make a splash, so he ends up panic trading up to get the first pick in the draft, and he has to mortgage the future, give a ton of picks, kind of like the Panthers mortgage the future for Bryce Young. He's mortgaged the future now, picking one overall, and one overall instead of taking this can't miss, absolute lock, best QB ever, has to be taken like an Andrew Luck type, prospect coming out of college. He takes the linebacker he could have had at 7, but now has to pay him a hell of a lot more money because he's 6 picks higher in the draft, and everybody loses their mind. Now, obviously, more happens. When I spoil the movie, more happens after that. It's got a happy ending. It's a good movie. It's enjoyable, but just like that's what this feels like with Mitch right here. Like, yeah,
My
man.
mind
I
was
think Travis
thinking.
Hunter's
They
the
literally
best.
talked.
Could take someone
They
else.
talked a team out of their first round draft pick for 3 second round draft picks. Like absolutely wild stuff.
Regardless of the movie, my mind was thinking my own personal mock draft, and by that time, Travis Hunter was gone. My bad.
Okay,
My
well,
bad.
since he's not, let's go back to
All
the
right,
real.
so
So
yeah,
now
yeah, go on.
everyone's okay. So you're obviously you think Travis Hunter is going to be future Hall of Famer. That's what you said. Do you
Yeah.
think do you think teams are going to let him play both ways? I know he says he'll
Uh,
retire if he can't, but do you think that's
No,
really going to happen?
yes, I think that's
no.
already been decided by the team that's already told them they're going to take him.
But I don't think it's going to be like a full-time thing. They're either going to. Here's the thing. I think he's a better wide receiver than he is corner. But you don't just have a gadget corner that.
Yeah, I had this exact conversation with. I do know one sports reporter. It's my sister Sylvie, and I had a conversation with her about the NFL draft, specifically about Travis Hunter, and she asked me that question. Will any team let him do that? And I'm reading verbatim what I texted to her when I was just in the middle of a workday firing it off. So I'm not editing this at all. I think any team that takes him highly will have a plan to keep him happy, likely a limited offensive role to play scheme for him while primarily using him on defense, similar to
That's
Devin
right.
Hester back in the day. He's too talented for everyone to just pass him because he wants to play both ways, so it really depends on how stubborn he is about what he wants versus what a team is willing to offer.
Yeah.
There's a yeah, that's really well. That's what I think too. There's a source that I trust very well when I come to like fantasy of like rookie impact players,
Bro, I told you not to
and
share that on the air.
and
That's between us.
it says that he would be if he was just a cornerback, he would be drafted top 5, and if he was just a wide receiver, he'd be drafted top 5. That's how talented this kid is.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
to Vinny's point, and the reason I wanted to read that text, I think, like you said, there's no such thing as a gadget cornerback. So if he's going to play both ways, he's going to be a corner and he's going to be a gadget receiver with specific plays schemed up for him. But you just can't play both ways. I don't care how good you are, how talented you are. It's a matter of endurance, right? You can only run so much, and if you were
What do
playing
you mean
70 plays
gadget?
on offense and 70 plays on defense, while they're only playing 70 one way or the other, you're going to get gassed, and they're going to blow by you no matter how good you are.
I'm confused on what a gadget corner is. Like a nickel is kind of technically like, or is he? Do you mean just like someone who can't guard the X and the Y, or
No, no,
like I'm
yeah,
confused.
No,
gadget
like
like someone
that's
who's
what we're
like,
saying.
yeah, like
It's not a
it's not a
position,
thing.
you know?
Like a gadget wide receiver is someone who has specific plays schemed just for them, right? Like for
Okay.
example, Debo Samuel, those plays where he lines up in the backfield and gets
Yeah.
running plays or whatnot, like those are schemed just for him, right? Now he's not a gadget player; he runs drill routes too. But like what I'm saying is that's what they're going to have to do with Travis Hunter to keep him happy, to let him play offense, and they take advantage of his skill set. But they can't have him out there running a route on every single passing play and covering a guy in coverage in every single passing play on defense. No one has the legs for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So if he gets rotated offensively and defensively,
I don't
that's
see
fine.
how someone can get rotated in defensively unless you're like a dime corner. Like of his caliber, what you're just gonna every once in a while put him on a slot guy. So I think he's a better wide receiver than corner. He's just a very interesting case because he's so good at both positions. You would want him on the field the entire game. I just don't think it's practical. Uh, I
So
think
if
from
I
a
was,
fantasy perspective,
yeah.
it's gonna suck so bad that he's not gonna be a full-time wide receiver because I think he has the potential to be great. I think he
Okay,
has the
so
potential to
this is
be
fascinating. You're the
elite.
head coach. You're the head coach of, let's say, the Browns take him out two. You're the head coach of the Browns, right? And your offensive coordinator goes, that player right there can beat all the corners on my team. I need him to be wide receiver. And then your defensive coordinator comes up to you and goes, that player right there can guard every single wide receiver on offense. I need him to play defense. What do you do?
See, that's what I don't know. I don't know.
If
That's
your
what makes
defense and
him so
offense
hard.
coordinator is like, I need him on offense, he beats all the corners out there. He's a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL. And then your defensive coordinator is like, no, this guy's a top 15 corner and can guard the number ones week in and week out. I need him.
I think
Well, let's look at it this
well,
way too.
two
Who's
things.
throwing the
One,
ball to him?
yeah,
Joe
go ahead.
Flacco, Russell Wilson. You know, like I don't know. It's tough. I don't have a right answer. I think that's what makes him so hard to draft as talent. It's you're right, Mitch. He should be number one overall. And the
Yeah.
only reason he probably isn't is because people don't know what to do with him.
Because they need a
I think it's going to play itself out because I think what's going to happen is he's going to go out there and he's going to try to do his thing, and there's going to be one side of the ball where he's better than the other. Like he's just going to adapt better to the NFL or function better. He's got more success, and this is a guy which, unlike Shador that we were talking about, didn't show much of an ego. Travis Hunter has shown an ego, right? I'm going to play both ways. I'm the GOAT, whatever. He has an ego. People with egos don't accept failure. So what's going to happen is he's going to eventually get to the point where whichever one he's doing better, that's what he's going to go all in on, and he's going to say, you know, yeah, well the coach felt it'd be better for the team, and I want to be a team guy, even though the real reason is, yo, I was getting torched out there when I was trying to cover people. You know what I mean? Terry McLaurin made me look like a school child out there running, you know, routes against me, whereas I'm out here torching the former Darrell Reeves of the world and whatnot. I can't think of a good name off the top of my head right now. Sorry. But yeah, so I think it's going to be one of those situations where he tries to do both. Teams are going to try to make him happy by having him do both, but eventually he is going to find the one that he likes better. He is more successful at. Could have to do with the coaching or the coordinators or the scheme or what have you, but eventually he will settle into a specific one or two options, I think, by the end of the season. Where, again, it'll be like Devin Hester. There's still going to be the occasional play for him on offense if he ends up being a defensive player. But I don't see a world where he's a full-time offensive player and then plays a couple of plays on defense. And I don't see a world where he's full-time both. I think he's either a full-time defensive player that plays a couple of plays on offense or a guy who is just full-time one or the other.
Hear me out real quick for full reference. A top five, if, let's just say that the source and analyst or whatever in the scout is correct, that he's top five at both positions if he was one or the other. For context, 3 years ago, 2021, the fifth overall pick was Jamar Chase, wide receiver. Sixth was Jalen Waddle, and then 10th was Devontae Smith. The first corner in that draft taken was at 8, and that's J.C. Horn. They're perennial Pro Bowlers. You go to the next year, the first cornerback taken was fourth overall. That's Ahmad Gardner of the Jets, who's a perennial Pro Bowler every year, one of the top ones. And the first wide receiver was Drake London at 8. Go to 23. The first corner taken is Devon Witherspoon, Pro Bowler, and the first wide receiver taken was like Jackson Smith-Jigba, Jordan Addison, and Zay Flowers were all taken together at 20 to 24. There wasn't even a top 15 wide receiver that year. Last year, the first wide receiver taken at 4 overall was Marvin Harrison, and the first corner taken overall was the first time in out of all the years a corner wasn't taken in the top 10, and it was Quinyon Mitchell for the Eagles, and we all know how good he's done. So if we're
Yeah, that
theoretically
was
talking,
a joke that he fell that
so
far.
that he fell that far. So if we're theoretically talking about the first wide receiver off the board or the first corner off the board, and it's the same effing person, what are we talking
Yeah.
about here?
But again, and like this has become more of a debate on Travis Hunter than a mock draft. But I think it's
Sorry,
worth
sorry,
having,
sorry.
no, but it's worth having this debate. The problem is, Mitch, it doesn't matter how good you are. There's only so much gas in the tank, right? You
True.
can only run so much. The best players in the world can only run so much. There's a reason that guys. Ronaldo now obviously takes a lot of time off, but even in his prime, Ronaldo didn't run the whole field all the time. He stayed on his half of the field so that he had all the gas for offense, right? He was tall. That dude could have gone back and played defense. I'm sure he could have bodied somebody in the box and headed it out of there to cover corners, and he did when they were ahead and just trying to defend the lead, right? So it's not that I'm not saying that Travis Hunter doesn't have the skill set. I'm not saying that he can't play both ways. I'm just saying that realistically, no one has the energy in the tank.
He's the safest.
Because even if we make the assumption that he is the best player on either side of the ball, and that's just not true. There's guys in the NFL that are better than him. Let's say he is the best wide receiver and the best cornerback on the field at any given moment. Well, the longer he plays, both those meters go down because he gets tired and the other person's tired meter doesn't fall at the same rate because they're only playing in half the plays. When they're resting on the bench and recovering, ready to run their next route, he's out there running routes on offense, and vice versa. When the defensive players are catching their breath on the sideline, he's out there covering their wide receiver.
Why can't he change weekly this time? This week we're going up against Jamar Chase. We need you as a cornerback. Next week we're going up against who's a team that doesn't really have a star wide receiver. Sorry, I'll talk like the Patriots or whatever.
But
then you're going to wide receiver.
Maybe I didn't address that one well enough. So the problem is like
just one game.
Skill and practice, right? So we all heard the phrase "practice makes perfect." Repetition is how you learn how to do things, right? If you do something over and over and over, you get better and better at it. There's a reason that veterans are considered to have an advantage in any sport. And generally speaking, in a sport, like assuming two players of equal talent, you will pick the veteran over the rookie because he's got some tricks up his sleeve. He knows more. He's that crafty, wily veteran, right? So again, this is assuming talent's equal. Well, same with him, right? If he's having to devote half of his time to practicing and learning and honing his skills as an offensive weapon, and half of his time is practicing, honing, and learning.
Because he's not going to be so much
weapon.
Better than the rest. Yeah,
when the guys he's up against, because it's not like in college you can do
he's
that.
He's not
right?
that much better than all of them.
Exactly. In college you can do that because in college when you're the best guy on the field, sometimes you're the best guy on the field. It's not freaking close. In the NFL, when you're the best guy on the field, it's not the same. There's it's kind of like the reason that there's a lot of guys who they were the fastest guy on their team and they get to the NFL and they're just average because everybody in the NFL is the fastest guy that was on their team in college and high school, right?
For sure.
So I think with Travis Hunter, I'm not saying he's not going to be great, but I'm not saying he can't be great on either side of the ball. I'm just saying you can't be great on both sides of the ball all the time. There's just not enough time in the day and energy to spend on it. And even if you had the time and energy to spend on it, that means the other guy has the time and energy to spend on doubling down on the one thing he's good at, and he'll beat you at it.
And all the crazy athletes that come through the NFL too, not one person's been like Devin Hester is like the closest thing. Then there's a reason why it doesn't work. Yeah, no, for sure, I get all that. I'm just saying sorry, Vinny.
No, I just wanted to, before we wrapped up Travis Hunter, I just wanted to say in Alex's scenario where it's like it'll shake itself out in camp. And we don't have to need not like a debate, but just something to think about. If he goes to the Browns, he has to face Denzel Ward or guard Jerry Jeudy. Facing Denzel Ward is much more difficult. If he goes to the Giants, I don't even know who their number one corner is, but he'd have to guard Malik Neighbors. So it's interesting to think that in Alex's scenario, where he goes matters to what position he could play the rest of his career.
That's
in
why
that
it has
scenario.
To be already agreed upon. Like the NFL does, they need a they don't want the Titans to come out and say, yeah, they're going Cam Ward because it ruins their ratings. That's why I'm saying with whoever's already behind closed doors has already came to an agreement with Travis Hunter, and then Travis Hunter is saying to other teams, don't effing draft me because I'm going 3, 4, 5 overall because they're going to use me this way. If you don't plan on me using me this way, then don't draft me for that exact reason. He doesn't want to go to camp and be like, wow, because the Giants suck at corner, I have to play corner. Like, that's a great point. That's such a good point. Yeah, he's one of the most interesting. Like I said, if you need a QB, go QB because there's too important in the NFL. That makes sense. But if Travis Hunter's not the first non-QB taken, I just don't know sports anymore. Like, he's one of those interesting people to follow. And yeah, we can move off of him. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail it.
In my ideal world, because I know it's too late now, but in my ideal world, in real life, the Raiders trade up to 2 or 3 and draft either Hunter or Abdul Carter.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think moving up 3 spots is going to cost you a ton of picks. Like if Hunter's there at 3 or 4, man, dude, the Raiders teams are going to aggressively try to move up to those positions. I just don't see a world where that doesn't happen. But anyways.
Yeah.
All right, boys and girls, let's spin the wheel of destiny and see who has the 4th pick in the NFL draft. This could be any of us again. We're all back in All right, looks like it's me.
Now that I understand the game.
Now you
for the
understand how
Patriots.
mock drafts work. Good Lord.
I win.
27 weeks into an NFL podcast and know how a mock draft works. All right, so I'm on the clock and I am on the Patriots. God, I can't stand it. Can I just trade?
You
being the
cannot
Patriots?
ruin this at this point. You cannot ruin it.
All right, well, I'm the Patriots. Got a few needs here. I mean, I can't ruin it. I
The
can
Giants
ruin
just
it.
drafted the Giants just drafted 2 players, so Lord knows who's even
That's
on the
true.
board.
The Giants just took 2 guys, so it's really hard for me to know what to go with. But Patriots historically have made terrible picks, but that's because they had a coach / GM that made terrible picks, and he's not there anymore. So I think I'm just gonna make the boring and safe pick here. Because I don't know if Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter's available. I could just go with Will Campbell, the offensive tackle. Last year I drafted a quarterback, and I want to protect him. I want Drake May to have more time to throw the ball so he can make his reads and make better decisions, and he can't do that when he's running for his life back there. So I'm going to take Will Campbell at tackle, and it's not flashy, but I think it's going to help out my quarterback. The other thing that I need would really just be a running back, and I already took that one off the board when I was the GM of the Browns. So I'm going offensive tackle here.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, obviously it's a good pick. I don't think it's a good pick with Abdul Carter still on the board technically, but I do think it's a good pick.
I had to assume that both Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter had been taken already because they were both drafted.
No, but
by the
wait,
Giants.
then we
The
ruined
Giants-
the entire
the
mock.
Giants
We
traded
ruined
up
the
with
entire
themselves
mock.
and made 2
Like
picks.
Abdul Carter has to go on a team somewhere. Technically, he's not on the Giants because we just talked about Travis Hunter for 20 minutes.
Abdul Carter's gonna be our green room draft faller.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
just gonna be sitting
So
there.
I do think a lot of the stuff is interesting about his arm. He's such an interesting person because like statistically he's elite, except for arm length. He is like, I guess like in the bottom percentile and like of non-successful people too. So, but I think he's hands down the best lineman in the draft. I think for the Patriots with Drake May and the type of football they play. I think Drake May is the real deal. Like when I watch his games, that dude is so good for the talent that was around him.
I agree.
I think he is.
I said that like
I-
week 9 of the season last
Yeah,
year.
dude.
Yeah.
He's so good. He's so like. I
He's
don't
on my
think he
watch
should
list
have
for
been
fantasy
drafted.
coming up.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
go
don't
on.
think he should have been drafted over Caleb or Jaden Daniels, but I know like there was a lot of hype before that season that Drake May was going to be the guy over Caleb, and then Caleb had a great,
I think
did what he did,
Drake
but-
May and Jackson Dart are very similar. I think they're both guys who aren't considered to be the top guy in their class, who could end up being the top guy in their class.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I mean, I think doing something for Drake May and getting a stud offensive tackle is probably the smartest thing for that organization. Maybe even if Hunter or Carter are there, I don't know.
Well, Will Campbell has the best odds on DraftKings. 3 years ago, it is the worst 4th overall pick in my opinion ever, and that was tight end from Florida, Kyle Pitts, 4th overall. 2 years ago is Ahmad Gardner. 3 years ago was Ahmad Gardner. 2 years ago was Anthony Richardson at 4, and last year was Marvin Harrison. So like 50-50 on hitting or not. I think. 2 of the last 3 years, the Patriots have gone QB in the first round with Mac Jones and Drake May. So I really don't see them going QB again. So it's got to be fill in the blank for best offensive
I
line.
mean, they do say 3rd time's a charm. So you're saying that I should consider my Jackson Dart line here? Really shake up the
Maybe.
draft?
Maybe this is a 2021 Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, or it's a 2024 Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. 3 QBs in a row. And then 2023 was almost it. It was Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Anthony Richardson went 4th with Willie Anderson going 3rd.
I was wondering
Willie
if you guys
Anderson
give me a hard time
probably
about this
should've won.
pick. When I did the ESPN mock draft, they have Will Campbell going at 4. Now, granted, in that mock draft, Genty did not go at 2, and Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter didn't both go at 3, but still, I'm just saying,
Yeah, it's
I
gotta
was
be
a little
best-
more chalk with this pick than I was with my first choice. All right, boys.
I'm just saying you're not far off, Alex. Like, I mean, I know it says chalk says offensive lineman, but 3 of the last 4 years, 3 quarterbacks have taken 1, 2, 3. Lawrence, Wilson, Lance, Young, Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Williams, Daniels, May. 3 of the last 4 years, the first 3 picks are QBs. So it's really not a stretch. It's actually more likely based off those results. Or you don't try to say.
All right, boys and girls. Jaguars on the clock. Let's see who the GM is. Spin the wheel of destiny. Can't be me this time. Gonna be one of you two bozos.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Mitch.
man.
Mitch,
Dang it.
you are
Is this
on
the
the
Raiders?
clock
Dang it.
Who are we on? Who are
as
we
the
on?
GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, I wanted the next pick. Oh,
Yeah, you
Adam.
can-
I wanted this pick.
You can-
You want to trade?
Yeah.
Sure, you can do the Jaguars.
Vinny
Yeah,
didn't want to
go
be the
for it.
Raiders GM.
Okay, yeah, because no. So this is
I
going to
feel
be
like,
good.
I
This is
feel
going
like
to
Vinny
be
should have to be the Raiders GM. But go, yeah, that's fine. You guys can trade.
no. This is going to be good for both of us actually, because not only am I helping the Raiders, but this is exactly the person I wanted to draft when we did this. So I'm giving you a future third to move up a pick. I don't know
All
what
right,
that works
that
out,
works.
but like one pick, it's probably a third round for this year. So for the Jaguars, I think they have a new head coach. They brought a guy in. He's an offensive-minded guy. This is exactly who I'm like, what do the Jaguars need? They're terrible. Who's going to be there at 5? Like, do they go corner? Do they go like D end? What is like kind of their move? There's some stuff that say, oh, they could use a wide receiver, but Brian Thomas like broke out last year. I think they want to continue to build that offense, and Gentry's not available, who I know there's some people saying they could surprise. I think their surprise is they saw what the Raiders did with Brock Bowers, and they draft Tyler Warren, 5th overall, tomorrow night to build that offense. So you have Brian Thomas, ETN, Bigsby, Trevor Lawrence, and Tyler Warren at the tight end position. I think like this is an offensive head coach. Like they want to build this offensive team. They don't want to take the next best offensive tackle. Not only that, but holla, because Mitch gets to draft the same guy twice for the next team. Hopefully, don't screw us, Mitch. But Tyler Warren, 5th overall, tight end, Jaguars.
All right.
Okay,
So,
so that
the
means
Jags.
that's a good
So
one.
just and for some context with the Jags. So 2 years ago, the Jaguars tight end led all tight ends in receptions, with like 100 and something, right?
Yep.
And then
Yeah, Evan Ingram.
last year he did nothing, and I know because I drafted him in a league. So yeah. So you think the Jags are just missing a tight end? Because I mean they got a stud at wide receiver, Brian Thomas. So you think tight end's the missing piece for Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, I think, yeah, I do. I think they could consider like Mason Graham, the defensive tackle, who's supposed to be really good, and kind of like in this top 10 conversation. I just think when you have an offensive-minded head coach, like you want to set yourself up for success, and they need a reason to tell the fan base that Trevor Lawrence is still relevant, because you do not want to be wrong on a franchise quarterback that you just gave $250 million to. So you're not going to take that D tackle. You're going to continue to build that offense.
All right, moving right along. For posterity's sake, I'll spin the wheel, but it's going to be Mitch anyway. So we'll just stop it here. Mitch, you were on the clock, and you were drafting as the Las Vegas Raiders. Well, I don't know why it fell to you and not the 2 Raider fans in the group, but Mitch, you're on the clock. Who are you taking?
Okay, as the Raider GM, this is easy. Wait, am I the 6th pick? I forget. What am
Yeah,
I?
you're the 6th pick.
6th pick.
Okay, so really quick, the 5th pick from the last couple of years was Devon Weatherspoon, Joe Alt, which seemed to be a good pick for the Chargers, Kayvon Thibodeau of Oregon, a defensive end, and the year before that was Jalen Waddle from Bama. But this is easy as a Raiders pick, okay? All I have to do right now is look at the wide receiver ranking list and see who's got the stupidest name possible, okay? And it's not going to be someone in the top 10. So I am scrolling down right now. I'm scrolling down, and there's some guy ranked like 14th. He's like ranked 14th wide receiver, and he says he's got a good 40 time named Ty Felton, and he's from Maryland. So my pick,
not
6th
Maryland.
overall, is the 12th overall projected wide receiver in this upcoming draft named Ty Felton from Maryland.
Oh, no.
you
Darius
know
Hayward
who
Bay
else-
was from Maryland.
You know who else is
He's
from
6th.
Maryland? Darius Hayward Bay,
Hayward Bay.
wide
Oh,
receiver.
Oh, I didn't even know that. and I
Oakland
just guessed it.
Raiders.
Oh, my God.
No joke. I just literally looked for who had one of the fastest 40 times for the upcoming draft, and it was like Ty Felton has a 4.3 and a 1.51 10-yard split, and he's like 14th ranked overall. That's
No,
who
I
the
take
Raiders
my
are
trade
taking.
back. I take the trade back. I
You
don't
did
want
this
to draft
first,
the
baby.
Jaguars.
You did
I
this
don't want
first.
to draft the
I-
Jaguars.
So for those who don't know, the lament
Not even
of the
Tetra
Raider fan.
McMillan or whatever his name is.
No. He's way too high up on the list. You have to scroll, okay? You have to go down.
For a
and to find someone. Okay.
for a
There
long,
was named
long
some guy named
time.
Xavier Restrepo, but he came from a too good of a school, so I had to go with some guy
No,
named Ty
you picked
Felton.
the perfect one. For a long, long time, the Raiders were known for just picking the guy who ran fastest. It didn't matter if they were good. It didn't matter if they were skilled or if they played for a good school. All that mattered is whether or not they were fast. And there was a year in the NFL draft where we had a high pick because we always did because we never won, where there were a couple of stud wide receivers available. A couple of them went on to have great careers. Not the one we picked, of course. The one that we picked was Darius Hayward Bay. And both my dad and I, who were watching, said who? Because he was a wide receiver from Maryland who was not projected to go on like day 1 or 2 of the draft. I was so upset. I was watching in my parents' guest house. My dad was in the house. He heard me screaming from the guest house. I was so upset. And then he watched as I wandered like a zombie towards the pool and just fell in. Because I needed to dunk myself in water. I was that distraught over what had just happened. So thank you, Mitch, for making me relive that tracks.
That tracks.
In all seriousness, there does seem to be some linemen that go pretty well at this spot. Like Paris Johnson was offensive tackle who went. J.C. Latham from Alabama went in this spot last year. Evan Neal from Alabama 3 years ago. And then it was Penei Sewell from Oregon through 2021. So for some reason, the 7th or 6th overall pick seems to be a really, really good offensive tackle. So I guess I would just build my line if I was given a real answer. I don't know. I figured I'd give a
And yet
substantial enough answer.
somehow the guy who's like odds-on favorite to be top three is now available at the seventh pick.
Who? Abdul Carter?
Abdul Carter's just sitting there watching money fly out of his bank account right now every single time someone else gets
Hey,
picked.
look, sometimes somebody's gonna fall, right? So let's add
Bro
Andy back.
might rage quit if Ty Felton gets drafted
Because
before
we're
him.
running out of time here, boys. We got 3 picks left to do.
I felt
Let's spin the wheel.
we have to have some kind of
Your
range
Sparks, by the way,
clickbait.
Mitch, because I wrote Alex Sparks instead of Mitch. But okay, cool.
We
All
have to
right,
have some
seventh
kind of
pick.
clickbait.
All right, so Vinny is now on the clock for the 7th pick in the draft. You are the New York Football Jets.
The New York Jets stop the bleeding. They're one of the worst franchises. Honestly, I would rather be a Raiders fan knowing how bad we've been historically than a Jets fan or a Giants fan for that matter. Like, Lord, New York just
I mean,
deserves
I'm not
better.
going to give you Giants fan because they've won 2 chips in the last 20 years, but I'll definitely take Raider fan
Yeah.
or Jet fan.
Yeah, easily. Like their best years are when they had Chad Pennington. Like, oof, rough. Anyways, Mark Sanchez even I think brought them pretty far. They go back to the defense. Their experiment with Hassan Reddick, who never played for them last year, is over. They draft Abdul Carter. I can't sit here and say how is he still on the board. I literally thought by taking Tyler Warren, I was leaving Abdul Carter for the Raiders. Obviously, we see how that played out. Alex and I are back onto our regular BS of the Raiders just absolutely drafting the worst player available at high picks. So at number 7, Abdul Carter, lock it in. There's nothing to talk about. It's a steal. The other 4 teams, their GMs just got fired.
Yeah, I definitely would have got fired. Wait, so Tyler Warren got taken to the Jags, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in our just for I forgot to say, and I like there's been 3 first round pick tight ends in the last 4 years, and so one year there was no tight end taken in the first round, but then if you look at it, there was like legitimately like 8 tight ends taken in the second round, but in the last 3 first round tight ends, it's been Dalton Kincaid, Brock Bowers, and of everyone's favorite Kyle Pitts. So it's like, is he Brock Bowers? Is Brock Bowers just because he's so good at 15 and everyone's like, oh, they're taking Bowers in the top 5? That's how good he is. Is Brock Bowers pushing this kid up the draft board? Or is he like a Dalton Kincaid or even a Kyle Pitts and Brock Bowers is just the exception to the rule? And if you go to, it was a 2023, the one time there wasn't a tight end taken in the first round. The second round consisted of Sam Laporta, Michael Mayer, Luke Musgrave, Luke Schoonmaker, and Brenton Strange of the Jaguars. So there was 5 or 6 tight ends taken in the second round, early as Laporta going second in the second round. So Is this a Sam Laporta? Is this a Kincaid? Is this a Bowers? Because if this is Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren, where he goes, is going to matter a lot for fantasy. I know we're on this pick. I don't really have an answer,
This
so I
GM
just
is
wanted to
wild.
talk about.
He's been talking about the Jaguars pick at 5 when he's on the clock at 7. This is how who's the
I don't know who to take at
the
7. I don't
Vikings
want to
that
pretend
missed
like
their
I know
pick
the
one year.
players.
This is how the Vikings
I just
missed
picked
their
7.
pick.
I picked 7.
I know. So I was just saying at
Oh,
7.
okay.
I was just wanted to talk about the
Wait,
the
why
tight
did you
end pick because
Oh, you picked. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I was just
I
confused.
just wanted
like,
some. Yeah,
Mitch was ranting
my
about a
bad.
tight end. I was like, what is happening?
I don't really know any of the other players, so it's like a best available position in tackle or DT, and I guess that would be like some guy named Armand Mbembu or something.
All right, well,
So
you,
I
you
don't
got you
know.
got time to think about Armand because I'm going to pick 8 and you're to pick 9. The last 2 picks, so
Okay, who's 9?
I'm picking. He says, you'll be the Saints. But first, I'm
Yeah,
on the
all right.
clock with the Panthers, and this random draft simulator has them taking Shador Sanders.
Oh,
Guess they no longer believe in Bryce if they're taking Shador. Uh, but no, I am on the clock. I am the Carolina Panthers. Uh, Carolina Panthers have a couple of different needs that we could consider here. But me as the GM, we need an edge rusher. It's one of our biggest needs, and one of them just got taken. Surprisingly, uh, a lot of them, fell a lot later in the draft than we kind of thought that they might. So even though Abdul Carter is gone, I think Jalen Walker could be there, edge defender as well as linebacker. That could fit into our scheme. So I think that's probably where I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Jalen and take the next best kind of edge rusher left after Abdul, since Abdul fell so far. It was great for us that all these guys fell. We were able to shore up our defense because offensively we believe in Bryce. We know that he's going to get the job done for us. I have to say that just like Nico has to say he didn't know Luka was important. So I believe in Bryce, so I'm going defense to shore up that side of the ball.
Uh, just for a little context, the 8th pick in the last couple of years. Last year was Michael Penix Jr., Jonathan Mingo, Drake London, and J.C. Horn. So 2 really good picks and 2 terrible picks. Just for fun, letting people know.
Fair enough.
Am I
fair
up?
enough.
Am I on the Saints?
Yeah.
Yeah, you broke the chat.
Okay, well, as the Saints GM, I would be scrambling right now because Ty Felton's gone, and we did not expect him to be gone. So we would be panicking until till they go Shador Sanders. Oh wait, no, he already went.
No, he
he
didn't
didn't
go. He didn't go. This is
Okay,
the ESPN mock, not our real one.
okay, well, and I take it back. We were panicking and we went Jackson Dart at 9. That's who the Saints go. Jackson Dart at 9.
Wow.
Wow.
I would not be that surprised if a quarterback other than Shador went in the first round before Shador. I really don't. I think Jackson Dart is pretty crazy. I hate to say it. Like Jalen Milrow is getting a ton of hype right now, and I don't know if it's just something I'm missing watching him in Alabama. But 2 years ago, before they brought in Washington's offensive coordinator, Jalen Milrow was a problem. Like he was also their problem, but he also won them a ton of games. So I don't know. I think he is a better version of Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson went 4th overall. So it is interesting to kind of see, um, what happens in that first round. But I don't think Jackson Dart would be a terrible pick for a team like the Saints that need a quarterback. Going quarterback is not the worst thing you could do.
Spoiler alert, Jackson Dart has better odds at the number 9 overall pick than Shador Sanders does.
Yeah,
Wow,
I mean,
I did not
I
expect that.
think he's a better fit. Like he's another guy that could come in and, I mean, they rolled the dice with Spencer Rattler last year, and they clearly don't believe in him. And there's a chance that Carr's not even going to play this season. So I could definitely see that for the Saints. I don't think that's a bad pick at all. And I think we've already discussed that I'm higher on Dart than I am on Sanders. I think he's a project.
Jackson
I think he'd be
Jackson
better
Dart
off him
plus
learning behind Carr than him just being the guy.
right,
But that's not an
and
option.
he wouldn't
So
take as much. He wouldn't take as much attention as Shador Sanders was. Jackson Dart plus 800, Sanders plus 1200 for the 9th pick. What's up, Vinny?
So just to do a recap, our draft went Cam Ward at 1, Gene T at 2, Travis Hunter at 3, Will Campbell at 4, Tyler Warren at 5, Ty Felton at 6, Abdul Carter at 7, or Yeah, Carter at 7, and then at 8 we did Jalen Walker, and at 9 Jackson Dart. Listen, I don't think anybody in the world has that mock draft, so you're only gonna hear it here. You're only gonna hear it here.
Well,
All right.
man, if
All right.
If Ty Felton goes in the first round, I need to buy everyone on the face of earth.
And I want to point out, we just did a mock draft. So let's go over. These are the people that were considered to be the top fantasy prospects as rookies. Genty, obviously, at 1. The next one would be Hunter until 6. Warren at 7. So the people projected to be the 2nd through 5th best fantasy relevant rookie, we didn't even draft. So it just goes to show you that fantasy players can be found later on in the draft. Just because someone's drafted high in the draft does not mean they're going to be fantasy relevant. So just,
Oh, for sure.
Worth
And it
noting.
depends on if you go to a situation like if you're a second round wide receiver going to the Chiefs, I'm going to be very interested in you.
Yeah.
But how many times are we gonna fall for that, dude? How many times are we
I
gonna
think-
fall for a guy going to the Chiefs?
Rasheed Rice and Xavier Worthy have both done okay. If they do another one 3 years in a row, one of those wide receivers is going to hit.
Yeah, but then in back-to-back years, didn't they do like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Sky Moore?
Yeah, I think, yes, out of the last 4 years, they've gone 3 wide receivers in the first round.
And like Xavier Worthy hasn't necessarily hit, and Rasheed Rice
Xavier
has
Worthy, I
hit,
thought, was hurt
but
after week 2 or something like that, or was that
but
wrong?
but
That's
Rasheed
just
Rice
weird.
is he's hit in fantasy, but he's also hit and run off the field. So it's like
Jeez, that's brutal. Yeah, and one of them got hurt. I forgot, right? One of them missed half the year. Who was it? Rasheed
Rice tore his ACL. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Rice is yeah. I mean, I was just trying to make a comment to like, what if the Bills like? That's why I was so high on the Bills wide receiver last year. What's his name? I drafted him.
Keon Coleman, even though
Yeah,
he's a
Coleman's-
terrible prospect.
Even though he was a terrible prospect, is because imagine someone like the Bills trading up in the first round or the Chiefs trading up in the first round like they did for Worthy. Like, okay, that's very appealing. So yeah, it's definitely which teams do what for sure. I like
and
the
I think
Bears
that's an
with their
interesting
new-
that's interesting to hear you say, because you are a pound the table wide receiver over situation type of person. Like, you think Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill, he's gonna make everybody better. And you don't necessarily always think that with quarterbacks. You're like, you just think it's numbers where somebody has to get it. But like, Keon was an overrated prospect on multiple sources, was not good. I didn't touch him in any fantasy league, including rookie drafts, even if he fell. So it's one of those things that is funny that we think that way sometimes. Like, that we think just because someone goes to Andy Reid and the Chiefs that they're going to be good, and really they have not produced elite talent like they should. Like, you would not be happy with Xavier Worthy last year, even though he was on the Chiefs, versus Brian Thomas, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Lad McConkey. Like, maybe even this year, Ricky Pearsall with Debo gone and him healthy after getting shot. You know,
Yeah, that's
like,
a good point. Those two
It's
teams
it's
drafted two
interesting.
worst wide receivers, Worthy and Coleman, were like the two worst of like the 12 taken. Yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting. I mean,
So
no, yeah, and it's also like for example, I don't want to like give away too much fantasy. I'm just kidding. But like, what if the Bears move up in the draft to get a running back? Like, that's gonna be interesting to me because they have such a hole there. And my boy Eric Bieniemy is now the running back coach for the Bears, so you know that
I'll tell
we
you
know what's
right
gonna
now that if they draft Jinty, I might take him in the first. I would
first
probably
round.
take him in the first round of redraft
with that
fantasy.
offensive coordinator, with the way they ran that Lions,
Which team?
with
You said the Bears?
yeah, like with that offensive coordinator, with no joke, I know you guys laugh at me, with Eric Bieniemy joining the staff in the last month, like that team looks prime for fantasy gold. And last year I drafted what's his name, DJ Moore, thinking, oh, I'm going to be early on the fantasy gold. No, I think I was way too early. I think it's going to be this year. Caleb Williams doesn't even have to have, but yeah.
That,
But
that,
like I
I mean,
said,
that really
just to-
ruins the projected value of Johnson, though. But yeah. Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought, Mason.
No, I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying you had a great point. Like, one of the things I'm looking for is like, do the Bears make a move at running back? So like, what you're saying is specifically what a team does is kind of more important than necessarily where that player is drafted. That's a really good point by you, Alex and Vinny.
Anyway, final thought. Then we're going to wrap this up because we are out of time here. Final thought. There hasn't been any first round trades as of yet. Which team do you think is going to pull the trigger first? Who do you think is going to trade up in the draft. Now, I know we're not going to know for sure until things play out. I'm sure if a draft like ours happens where Carter starts to fall and, guys like Felton go early, people are going to be much more likely to move up and try to get guys that are still there. But if you just had to pick, which team do you think is desperate enough, needy enough, or looking for something specific enough that they're going to move up?
I'm going to go with either Bears or Raiders make a move. I think if I was a betting favorite, the Bears are going to go and get their guy because they've invested so much into that team. Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, the new coach, like they've invested too much to not move up. And I also think the Raiders, if there's a guy that they really like at 3 or 4, will definitely be making some calls to the Giants and the Patriots.
Mitch, you got?
Just some of the rumors I heard from some of the shows and networks and sources, like I don't think it's entirely out of the question to rule out the Browns and the Titans swapping spots. So I don't know. I think it's more of someone trying to get. So wait, the question was who's trading out or who's trading in, right? Or I'm confused. Sorry.
Either, I think. Just who's going to make a trade.
Yeah, so this year I don't know if it's necessarily going to be too far of it. It's just going to be probably trading a couple picks, but like I could maybe see, definitely the Browns and the Titans swapping for sure, or I could even see something like the Jets moving up 4 picks, 5 picks maybe. It all depends on what. Yeah, okay. So I'll just say right now, the Browns and the Titans, they're pretty interesting right now, just from what some people I don't know if it's just rumors, clickbait or not, but the Browns keep saying people we've got our QB situation figured out, and then they have no one. So it's like, why do they keep telling the public, just wait and see about our QB situation, and they have like these hidden smiles whenever people are talking about the draft and all their answers, and it's like, well, you don't have a QB, so what do they know that we don't? So I'm wondering if the Browns have already figured something out and they just can't say it ahead of time because NFL again wants this to be a rating show, like a entertainment show. So like they tell you, don't say what you're going to do or not, save it for Thursday. So I wonder if there's already something worked out there, but probably not, maybe not. It'd be hard to pass up Travis Hunter.
All right, boys and girls, that was my final question, and my answer is I'm gonna go with the Steelers. I think the Steelers are in the market for a QB. I think Aaron Rodgers has been keeping them in limbo, and clearly they had 2 quarterbacks last year and didn't believe in either of them. So they want somebody. I think there's a chance that they may move up if they are sold more on Sanders or Dart, either one, and they think someone above them is going to pull that trigger, whether it be real or bluff. Like New Orleans, for example, they might move up because I don't think they want to risk being stuck with the guys they're stuck with. So that's my 2 cents. That's my hot take. And that's it for the pod, boys. Any final thoughts, or else we're gonna wrap this up?
I don't want it to turn into a discussion, but I just want to say good riddance, Chad Baker Mazzara. Enjoy your life somewhere else.
Oh, I meant to talk about that. That was something I wanted to talk about. That was a while. Dang it! Why can't it turn into a discussion? Screw it. I don't care if the podcast is supposed to be over. I'm gonna talk about this because you set me off. I'm sorry, Ben. Those who don't know, CBM played for Auburn, scored a ton of points. I was actually there when he was given a basketball and honored for how many points he scored for us. He was in his 5th year. We were paying him $100,000. We went to the Final Four. He wanted $200,000. We said no, so he left. I hate the landscape now of college basketball where people just change teams every year. It's wild to me. I mean, it's wild to me that we wouldn't pay him the extra $100,000, but it's also wild to me that a guy can play for you and do well for you and be successful for you and win accolades for you, and then next year he's probably gonna get booed if he had played Auburn because he transferred.
He's 25 years old with 1 year left of eligibility after already playing for the Auburn Tigers, the Duquesne Dukes, San Diego State Aztecs, and Northwest Florida State. So he's already played for 5 different colleges, 5 years. He's 25 years old, which means he probably redshirted at 18 or 19 his first year, and he still has 1 year left of eligibility to be 26-year-old playing college basketball for a 6th different team.
Wait, time out. So that means that he's 25 years old, punching right freshmen, 18-year-olds in the back of the head. This dude should go to prison at this point.
No, but that's the state. That's the state of the college basketball. Is you have NBA college basketball teams older than the OKC Thunder. It's crazy. It's just I just wanted to emphasize Alex's point of how bad we are in a wild, wild west period of college basketball right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I listen. I think that he tried to strong arm them into an extra 100,000, and it was a perfect excuse for Bruce to be like,
See
because
ya.
they already had him on contract. It was a perfect excuse to be like, listen, we appreciate what you did for the university, and we know you're a great player, but we just can't keep putting up with your shit. Like he's had multiple flagrant fouls, multiple near flag. The amount of times that a game was paused to review a flagrant foul for Chad Baker Mazara, even if it didn't get called, was too many times. So it's just one of those things like he's just a walking liability, and he gave him a perfect excuse to cut ties, and I'm very happy about it. I really am. So, but on the other side of that, you get a guy like Nico Amalaveo, or however you say his name, trying to strong arm Tennessee into more money and then taking a $1.5 million pay cut.
I can't. I don't
That
know
that is
why he was
hilarious to me.
UCLA even, and yeah, that's also wild too. And it's just yeah, this is a weird time. It's the schools are hiring GMs for their sports teams now.
Oh my
It's
God! Speaking of GMs, did you see who was throwing passes yesterday
uh-uh
and lining up under center
was it Pete Carroll again?
at Stanford University?
Oh, Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck, who is Stanford's GM, was under center taking snaps and throwing passes
Oh,
for the Stanford Cardinal. And I
he's
immediately laughed out loud thinking how many times Mitch drafted him to do that where he never played.
Does he have any eligibility
years.
left?
He probably has eligibility left. No, I'm just kidding. I bet you he's still better than at least six starters in the NFL. I'm willing to bet anything on that.
Oh, for sure. $100.
Well, I really enjoyed today's podcast, guys.
Yeah,
I'm
it's been a
excited to
blast.
watch tomorrow.
Good chatting. We'll get back into it next week where we discuss what happened in the draft, and we'll see which one of us had the most outlandish incorrect pick in our first 9. There's a lot of candidates, especially coming from the Mitchell GM section, but we're going to see what happens, and let's wrap it up there. Say goodbye, everybody. We're out of here.
See
Night.
ya.